Hey, everybody. We are live at Paste Studios right now with Andrea Gibson. Andrea, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We're so stoked that you're able to do this. You're headed out on the road pretty soon from here, so thanks for making this part of your New York trip.
Sure thing, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to hear 3 poems today. All of them are from Lord of the Butterflies, which is out right now. And can you tell us a bit about what you're going to start out with?
Yeah, the first poem I'm going to read is a poem called Your Life, and it is a genderful pep talk to my younger self. It isn't that you don't like boys. It's that you only like boys you want to be. David with his jaw carved out of the side of a cliff. Malcolm who doesn't have secrets, just stories he owes no one. Chris the basketball hero who has a tick, blinks 15 times when he makes a shot. You spend hours blinking in the mirror, wishing you could be a star like him. Mary Levine calls you a dyke and you don't have the language to tell her she's wrong and right. So you just show up to her house, promising to paint your fingernails red with what will gush from her busted face if she ever says it again. You're in the 7th grade. You don't even know you want a girlfriend. You still believe too much in the people who believe in Jesus to even feel that desire through its health threat. You just want to kick your desk on the way to the principal's office, slouch in detention, want to cut your hair and spit out whatever you don't want in your mouth, your own name even, skirting around the truth. You don't yet know the boys are building their confidence on stolen land, but you do worry the girls might be occupied with things you will never understand, won't ever be good at. You take one pretty step and feel like you're pouring bubbles into your own bloodbath. You don't want a soft death. You want a hard life. That is your life. Your life in the locker room that doesn't stop demanding you keep your eyes on the floor. Your life at the prom, where you run home in a snowstorm, checking your last pair of heels in a snowbank, realizing you are the only boy you ever wanted to tear your dress off for. Your life, the first Christmas you spend alone, the years you'll learn to build your family out of scratch. Your life when someone drags you from a restroom by the color of your coat. Your life every time airport security screams pink or blue, trying to figure out what machine setting to run you through. Choosing your life and how that made you into someone who now often finds it easy to explain your gender by saying you are happiest on the road when you're not here or there but in between, the yellow line running down the center of it all like a goddamn sunbeam. Your name is not a song you will sing under your breath, I promise. Your pronouns haven't even been invented yet. You're gonna shave your head and drive through Texas. You're gonna kill your own God so you can fall in love for the first time. They're gonna keep telling you your heartbeat is a pre-existing condition. They're gonna keep telling you you are a crime of nature. And you're gonna look at all your options and choose conviction. Choose to carve your own heart out of the side of a cliff. Choose to spend your whole life telling secrets you owe no one, to everyone, till there isn't anyone who can insult you by calling you what you are. You holy blinking star, you highway streak of light, falling over and over for your hard life, your perfect life, your sweet and beautiful life.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, Andrea, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about? This room just seems so conducive to the influence discussion. And can we talk a little bit about who has influenced you, whether it be musicians, folk artists, protest singers, or whether it's whoever it is, anybody across the spectrum?
Yeah, I'm influenced, I think, mostly in regards to spoken word by a lot of spoken word poets that I just, discovered as soon as I turned maybe 19. I think you mentioned Saul Williams was here. Saul Williams was a big influencer of mine. There's a poet named Patricia Smith whose work I just adore. I'm also really influenced by, poets that write about flowers and trees, like Mary Oliver. I was telling you earlier, there's Ani DeFranco was the first person who I ever heard do spoken word, and I was going to a very conservative Catholic college at the time, and everybody was supposed to bring in their favorite poet, and bringing in an artist like her to my Catholic college was really exciting. But I also listened to a lot of sappy folk singers. Anything sad I'm into.
feelings and plaid and guitars. Yeah. Well, so speaking of Ani, you worked with Ani DeFranco on she did the music to the song that to the poem that you're about to perform next. Can we talk a bit about what that was like and introduce the poem as well?
Yeah, so that's interesting because I don't have Ani's track with me here today, but Ani and I collaborated. She was the person who wrote the final track that we used for a video called America Reloading, and it's a video trying to bring awareness or emotional awareness to gun violence in schools and gun reform in the United States. And the collaboration was so educational for me because I tend to always lean hopeful with the music that I'm using for any piece, specifically with dark pieces that I'm writing. And Ani held so tightly to the idea of honoring the darkness, the grief of the piece, the the scariness of a piece in that way. And so I learned a lot about finding music that actually matches the emotional tone of a poem and heightens the words, and she was really wonderful to work with.
Amazing. We'd love to check it out.
Mostly because of dying stars, scientists say space smells like barbecue and gunpowder, which is to say space smells like the United States, a holiday where we celebrate the independence of machine guns, how anyone can buy a cemetery at a sporting goods store on their 18th birthday and open carry it to an elementary school where children are learning tears don't fall in space, weightless without gravity, they never leave the eye. Is that what happens to the NRA? A child asks, after the bodies of half her class have used every red crayon in the universe to scream goodbye. Did the NRA's tears not drop because they're astronauts? How does a parent tell a 6-year-old that gun sales spike every time our right to bear massacres makes a coroner faint, makes a medical examiner say, I can't, my God, I can't, but we can, can't we, America? Each election, don't we say we can stomach the boy loading a black hole into his backpack and unloading it in the high school hallway on Valentine's Day? It would take light years to count how many times the terrified texted, I love you, I love you, I love you in Parkland, Florida, while the NRA kept crying in space. My friend, a second grade teacher, is told to practice hiding her children in the closet. 23 7-year-olds huddle holding their breath. Holding your breath in space is the fastest way to die. The lungs explode in that vacuum almost as quickly as an AR-15 can make blood dust of a closet door. Of the 20 children murdered at Sandy Hook, not one of them needed an ambulance. That's how dead they were. That's how well the Second Amendment works. Because there is no air, it is silent in space, but not as silent as the Christians on the Senate floor. While 20 more families are asked if they would like to talk to a priest, Christ could tear the nails from his hands and scrape them down a blood-splattered chalkboard, and they would still be praying for their bank accounts. After Columbine, parents were called into tiny conference rooms. One family said, we could hear the family before us screaming and we knew we were next. Now loved ones check Facebook to see who is dead. A mother's status is, I can't reach my daughter. I can't reach my daughter. Decades after her child is murdered in the cafeteria, that thought will still be tearing her from her bed. I can't reach my daughter. The footprints left by astronauts on the moon are permanent. They will never go away. Like the grief of a father identifying his son by his shoes because the rest of his son's body was out lobbied by suits, whispering into the ears of Washington, yes, this is what America means by freedom and justice. The names of our cities becoming synonymous with babies being buried like seeds in the greed gardens of the wealthy. But you should know, your teacher was a hero, we say. Her body found bunkering a group of your friends, and that's as happy as the ending gets right now. The hero's almost always dead. The flag at half-mass grave, children huddled in basements, trying to tear off their ears on the 4th of July, because the fireworks sound like the day everyone died crying, died with their next 80 birthdays pouring from their eyes, while America reloaded and moved on to the next.
Thank you. That is, does your work tend to, I mean, that is very, very straight up the middle, exactly literally what you meant. There's not a lot of abstraction going on in that. Does your work tend in that direction, away from the abstract, or is that one an outlier in terms of your body of work?
I think it's more of an outlier than probably any piece that I've written. Yeah, I don't know how much poetry is in that poem. It's just essentially just telling what's happening. Yeah, I usually do a lot of wordplay and that sort of fun, but it didn't feel like there was a place for it really here.
So there are a number of tour dates coming up. You're going to be in Green Bay, Wisconsin at the Untitled Town Book Fest. So is that Saturday? It's April 27th. So that's coming up soon. You're back here in New York at the Gramercy on May 4th. What does the live show look like? Are you playing with band, or is it a solo, and also does it change from festivals to venue shows?
You know, it's often changing up because I know so many musicians around the country or world that there's often people sitting in with me in different places. A book festival would be a little bit, more booky than a club show that I tend to do, which I think is kind of a new thing that's happening for people to be filling up rock clubs and stuff to hear poetry. I've just seen it happening in the last few years, which is great, watching lots of poets have that experience. But yeah, it's a pretty dynamic show. It's funny. It's hard to believe I'm funny right now, I know. So it's funny, when you cry sometimes, and it's just all the different feelings. And we try to make space for all the different feelings, and it can be wild and all that.
Great. Well, hopefully everyone who's tuned in right now is able to check you out in a live setting. All the info is up at andreagibson.org. And there are many, many dates, including a lot of UK dates in mid-May.
Yeah, a lot in the UK.
So travel safely through all those. And thanks for bringing this poetry here today. We've got one more.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what's coming up next?
Yeah, this is a poem called First Love, and it's about the first time I ever fell in love with a woman. I grew up thinking love was boring and basketball was way more interesting. And then I realized I kept trying to fall for boys. And if maybe I tried a different route, it would work out for me. So. I don't think I ever really kissed any boys. I think my tongue had just been punching their tongues. But as soon as you loved me, all my callus went away. My hands so soft it hurt to pray. You picked me up at my Catholic college, and I would sleep for hours till we reached your house. The first time in my life I had ever rested. The first time I didn't have to play a role I'd never wanted to get. That's the medicine it is to be finally seen by someone. I'd crack a smile and you'd point to my chest and say, "What just broke?" I'd throw my body in the river, but you'd say my name right, and I'd become a stone that skipped. Do you remember the first record where we didn't have to change the pronouns to sing along? We'd gone so many years without music that knew us, music that knew you could arch your back, and I'd have proof that the earth was round. Bless who we were then. Bless who we still are. My straight friends tease me because all my best friends are my ex-loves, but a wise heart told me it's the most tender part of queerness, how we've all lost so much family. When we find people we call family, we'll do almost anything to not let go. Thank goodness for that ice storm that trapped us in that cheap hotel where I drank an entire bottle of something awful and finally told you I had loved you since we were 15, playing basketball under a flickering streetlight beside the poorest part of the sea. The ice storm froze the world outside into a photograph of the past while I kneeled down and kissed my future onto your kneecaps. 2 decades talking to Jesus. That was the first time I heard him talk back. Months later, church bells ringing through my dorm room. I wrote my senior thesis about you and told no one how hard I was praying to stop hiding myself in metaphor, to one day find the courage to carve the truth into the chapel door. Holy were all the hours I spent picking out my outfit the night you took me to my first queer bar in Portland, Maine, the biggest city I'd ever walked through. I was so excited and so scared that we'd be shot or spotted. On our way inside, I sat in the parking lot for hours till I changed my mind and you drove me home. Mascara pouring down my brand new boy shirt. I never guessed there'd come a time, like the winter we traveled north to visit your mother, asleep when we arrived after midnight. She lit our room with candles and rested a joint in the center of the bed. Neither of us were any good at smoking, but we pulled her welcome into our lungs like it was 100 years of oxygen. Up until then, we didn't know anyone in the whole world would celebrate us, wiping the steam from the glass to see each other blushing in the same bathroom mirror in the morning. I was thinking about that last May when I was invited back to my Catholic college to read poems for the first time. You sitting in the front row beside the nuns and the school president and the teacher who had given me an A on the manuscript I'd been too afraid to write your name in. Mandy, I know so much has not gotten better. I know so much has not gotten easier, but that moment, it knocked the wind out of me. Time, finally being the kind of father we all deserve. The world turning its porch light on for us. It was so bright. I could feel the freckles on my 15-year-old face warming in its glow. I could feel hope traveling back in time to find us, to whisper into our chests. There will be music for you one day. Thank you.
All right, Andrea, thanks for coming here and doing this. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So best of luck on Lord of the Butterflies. It is out right now, and tour safely. There's a ton of dates all up at andreagibson.org. I think the Lancaster Pride Fest on July 20th is the last one that's announced, and there are a number of dates between now and then. And have a great show at the Gramercy, and maybe see you at Ani's reading at the wherever it is, somewhere in the city.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
On the 7th. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
All right.